What a good-looking bunch of gentlemen and ladies, right? So glad to be here. My name's Loy. I'm a recovered alcoholic. I have a dry date December 1st, 1989. Where to start? You know, I am nervous. Speaking in front of people is one of my fears. It has not completely been removed. You know, Big Book says we ask God to remove our fear, and immediately we begin to outgrow fear, right? So hopefully it'll settle down here in just a minute. Seems to help me. Say a little joke. Y'all may or may not like the joke. That's okay, I like it. So, young man on a bicycle delivering newspaper, and he's got to ride by the cemetery, and he's tired, so he did his route, and he parks by the cemetery, and here's two old drunks in the cemetery, right? Overhears them talking, but he don't know they're drunks. He can just hear them. One of them says, "Oh God, you know, if we round all this up," and what they're talking about is the cemetery had pecan trees, pecans everywhere. He said, "We round all these little nuts up, we can separate them, we can sell them, and get some alcohol." And the other guy says, "Oh Nick, oh devil, yeah, you got a good idea." And so they're rounding all the pecans up, and they start separating them out, and one for you and one for me, and one for you and one for me, you know. And the little boy thinks, God and Satan are separate out the souls from the cemetery. And it scares him. So he jumps on his back, he takes off, and he runs into the old man with a cane, almost knocks him down. The old man said, "Son, what's the hurry?" He said, "God and Satan are gathering the souls, and they're separating them out." And the old man says, "Oh, son, you know what you're talking about. Take me, show me what you're talking." So he goes over there, and they look into the cemetery, and they can hear the voices. One for you, one for me. One for you, one for me. They can't see them. They don't know where they're at. They just hear the voices. And then the one says, the other one says, "Well, God, I think we got them all separated." And he says, "Yeah, what about those nuts by the fence?" The old man beat the kid up the hill. I got another one about pride. Preacher preaching about pride, one of them fire brimstone sermons about pride, and pride goes before the fall. And after the sermon, old Miss Prissy comes up to him and said, "Man, that was one heck of a sermon." I said, "I got to tell you, I got that sin of pride." And he says, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "Well, I took an hour getting ready for church this morning, getting all dressed up, and because I'm so beautiful." He steps back and he says, "Oh, Miss Prissy," he says, "that ain't the sin of pride. That's the sin of an imagination." So I'm gonna tell you, I'm not an Alcoholic Anonymous guru. I just have an experience in Alcoholics Anonymous that has changed my life, and I too was a little put off by the Al-Anon because I associated them with the controllers, the people that told you what you should be doing, and you're not living up to your deal, right? You know, them, the rule makers. That's not necessarily what's Al-Anon about, right? And I'll tell you a little story. The people that originally 12-stepped me were all Al-Anon. Figure that one out. So I'll tell you a little bit about my history. And I'm glad to see Al-Anon here. Let me tell you, we haven't had Al-Anon in our group for about 3 years, I guess. Members died, members moved off, and Tiffany moved down here, and we got Al-Anon going again, and thank God for that, because you know I think it adds to the environment in the group. So like that, I want to thank Mamie, conversation we had, and Shanna for all your encouragement, and Thornton for praying me up, because I needed all the prayers this week. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. This is a rough week for me. I've gone through the entire 12 steps this week, and I'm talking prayers and right now I'm vibrating like, you know, when you sober up, you vibrate sideways. Yeah, well, I'm vibrating that way. And I was going to wear a coat and tie, but I'm afraid that'll choke me off, and I'll get too hot. Y'all be over here trying to resuscitate me as I'm passing out. But It's been a rough week, and I've got several sponsors. I had to get two. One of them right now, he's up in Cloudcroft, and the other one went to New Orleans this week, which is a rough week for him to be in New Orleans. So I got two, and the reason is because of relationships. I got two, that's where I got the second one. I told Jim if he'd give me $200, I wouldn't mention his name up here so I could pay Thornton. But Jim didn't care. But this week I've been talking to Jim and I've been talking to Steve up in Cloudcroft, which is abnormal because usually he doesn't carry a phone. And I got a sponsee named Mike that I've been talking to, and Mike's been sponsoring me this week. But I called Jim and I said, Jim, with what's happened this week, I can't go to Lubbock. I can't do that. I just can't do that roundup. And if I start crying up here, I'm sorry. This is an emotional deal for me. I've been told this thing is waterproof. It won't melt. I might, but it won't. But he said, Loy, you got to go. And you might even give the second best talk you've ever given. Well, I never gave a good talk anyway, so what's the second bad, right? So I don't know about you. I called it. I got to get a second opinion. I called Steve. I said, Steve, I can't go to Lubbock. I've got to call in and cancel. I can't go to Lubbock. This is just too painful. It's too much. It's the truth of the matter. I am powerless, no matter what stage of my sobriety, and I am powerless unless I have God's power, right? And so it's too much. I am inadequate. There's not enough for me to do this, right? Until I get connected to that God consciousness and that thing within you. I love this. Love this. I don't know what that means, but that's, to me, I was sitting there as, what is that flame? And let me tell you what the flame is to me today. That's the flame of God's love that dwells in each of us, and we got to keep it stoked. We got to keep it burning, right? And what do? We walk away and we let it go out. Today it's flaming. I've had so much spiritual growth this week, and I don't even know how to explain that to you, but it's amazing. And I'm reasonably comfortable with my unsolved problems because of that. Now, it hurts. Don't get me wrong. Facing calamity with serenity, it hurts. And that's the little deal on the table that says, talk about what's your key to the willingness. Mine has always been pain. It's never been out of, I'm going to go do that. Pain has always been my motivator. Pain has been the touchstone for my spiritual growth. There's a saying in the 12 and 12 where it talks about there's two great disciplinarians, great suffering and great love. Great suffering got me here, and y'all's great love kept me here. Right? I tell you a little bit of story. I was born in Louisiana, but I was a Texan. Figured that one out. And before I was born, there's a hurricane blew through, almost blew us away, and I don't remember any of that. I wasn't conscious. I wasn't aware. There was a comet. My mom slept off base. My dad was drafted into the Army at Fort Polk, and she slept off base, and she slept with a shotgun. So I was told from the earliest age that I was a son of a gun. Yeah. We got back to Texas as soon as we could, right? And we lived all over. We lived Texas and all over Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. We did a little trip to Oregon and I think maybe Colorado, but I'm too young for that. But we did a lot of traveling. And I went to a lot of different schools. In my mind, I counted 10 schools by the time I hit 10th grade, so I never fit in. And in fact, I lived in Gallup, New Mexico for a while. It's the Indian capital of the world, and there's drunk Indians everywhere, and it's a rough place to school. And I don't know, they say New Mexico got some of the roughest schools for any kid anywhere. Reason I know that is because I go to Tahachi, New Mexico for the men's retreat, and there's guys that work in school tell me that, right? And that's where I would have been this weekend if Thornton hadn't asked me, But he asked me, so if I'm asked, I'm supposed to do it. Now, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? It's a privilege to do it if I'm asked. So I was going to be in Tahachi, New Mexico for the men's retreat. They do 3 steps when they do it, and it's twice a year. And Willard goes there. I don't know if y'all know Willard, but Willard goes there. And Willard told me what they had planned this year. And he was going to go up to the Benedictine monastery up by Abiquiu and spend some time there with, I guess, chanting with the monks. And then you're going to go to Tahachi. So me and my sponsor have been going up there for a while, and it's just a wonderful thing, right? So that was my plan until Thornton called me, and I was like, well, I can't say no. I can't say no, right? What a privilege to get asked to do anything in Alcoholics Anonymous. This program that saved my life. So anyway, I went to all these schools, and I lived in Gallup, New Mexico for a while, and ride the bus home, and there's a bus full of Indian orphan kids from Manuelito Children's Home out there. If y'all don't know where that's at, that's what it is. And it was cowboys and Indians all the way home, but there was only one cowboy, me, an Indian. And there were some times that I didn't think I was going to make it home. It was only a 7-mile ride on that bus. They'd be choking me and hitting me, and the bus driver, he's laughing. He's having fun. Luckily, my bus stop would come, and they'd let me off. Started over the next day. So the only peace and serenity I have in that area with my kids at home, my sisters at home, and the school was the Red Mesa. So the story on 458, I think it's 458, Listen to the Wind, the Navajo lady story, that was my story. The Red Bluffs of Gallup, New Mexico, and beans and tortillas, right? And cold winters, I don't know about the snow being that high. I don't remember that snow being that high. But I would walk across the highway, and I'd go to the mesa, and I'd crawl up on the mesa, because that's the only peace I had at that time. And I would sit there, and then from there you could look into Arizona 40, 50 miles, I don't know, and I'd be at calm, and I'd see a hawk, and he would fly right below me, and he'd just soar. And that's where I wanted to stay, in that peaceful environment, But then it'd get dark, and I had to get home before the rattlesnakes bit me, before it got too dark, and I'd go home, and it'd start the whole cycle over again. That poor lady ended up prostitute. I would have, but nobody paid for it, so. But I relate to that story a lot, right? And I didn't fit in, and I ended up in Big Spring, Texas, 10th grade, and went into the military when I graduated high school. And one of the best deal, I was gonna be a career military person. That was my idea. And what I didn't know is that I had diseased alcoholism. See, I look back now, I know I needed a drink. I used to say in the kindergarten until it dawned on me I never went to kindergarten. Now, I went to first grade in Grants, New Mexico, and the bathroom was in the back of the classrooms, and there was finger painting on the wall, right? Finger painting, you know what I'm talking about? Finger painting? That's where I became anal retentive. Constipated, right? I've had bowel problems ever since. But I was going to make a military my career, and I went through basic training. We did all that stuff, and I'd never had a drink till then, right? I get out of basic training, and they have a big deal, and it's 3-2 beer. You're under 21, you got to drink 3-2 beer, and I'm like, I deserve, right? Yeah. So somebody smart, he said, you got to drink 2 or 3 pitchers to get drunk on 3-2 beer. So, okay. What I didn't know, that started a series of events because of the way it changed me that would end up changing my life and changing my career plans. Tell you a little bit about my family. On my mother's side, my granddad was an elder in the church, and they went to church all the time, and she tried to get us to memorize Bible studies, and I use a big book a lot, but for some reason I still have a mental block about memorizing stuff, right? I just couldn't do that. On my dad's side, they were all rednecks, I guess you call them. They play country music, they play fiddles, they drink all night. When we went to visit, they drink all night. We were playing music, and I'd fall asleep listening to music. Didn't seem too bad, right? When I'm 8 years old, we're living in Tucson, Arizona, and we get the call. You got to load up, got to go back to Texas. And my granddad's been killed in a drunken brawl. He had gone home and woke up my 2 uncles looking for a gun to go kill a man for stealing beer from the American Legion. And my 2 uncles fought with him, and he was choking one of the uncles out, and the other uncle got the gun and shot my granddad and killed him dead. That's my history. Does that make me an alcoholic? That's just sad things, right? I'm 12 years old. I'm going through we're going through from Gallup to Albuquerque, and about midnight, and there's a bad wreck on the interstate, and there's a Dodge Duster that's broken in half, and it's like, man, somebody got hurt in that car. And we get to Estancia to spend the night with some family members, and we get a call. And we got to go back to Albuquerque. It's the uncle that shot my granddad, and my favorite uncle, and he's in a coma from a car wreck driving. 2 people in the car, they'd been out at the bars, and they were headed home, and he driving too fast, he lost control. His buddies passed out in the back seat. Thank God. Right? My uncle's not wearing a seatbelt. Thank God. They hit a telephone pole, split it in 2, so the two halves of the car, and my uncle got thrown over and hit his head, and he's in a coma. And the guy in the back seat got thrown 150 something yards or whatever, and he hit head on into a culvert, broke both his collarbone, but he lived. You know? And I saw what that was going to do to my cousins who I love. You know? So, mental picture, right? So, of alcoholism. I don't know for sure, right? And then I saw the other uncle that was involved in that altercation and his wife fighting over the hair of the dog the morning after. And I said, if you don't drink alcohol in the morning, you can't be an alcoholic. See, I got those thoughts, right? But I've never even taken a drink yet. You know? So here I am in the military, I'm drinking, and something happened. That hat band around my head, it was too tight. That headache that I had, it was gone. The weight on the bottom of my feet was lighter. My step was higher. You know? And I go back to the bunk, barracks. I laid on a bed, got the bed spins right away. Yeah, I was like, well, if I could fix that, I'd like this. And I drank every chance I got after that. But what happened is it changed me, and I ended up walking away from that military career. And I don't know that it's alcoholism. See, I think my goals have changed. Line in the back of the big book. You can look it up, I think it's on page 423. It says, the primary difference between an alcoholic and a non-alcoholic is a non-alcoholic will change his behaviors to meet his goals. An alcoholic that changes goals to meet his behaviors. And that's what I was doing. I didn't know it. I came back and learned about whiskey. What a deal, man. That's some good stuff. Yeah? Goes down hot, hits and explodes in your whole body, right? Then I started having blackouts. My whiskey career was very short. It took me down pretty quick. Most of the time because it was free. The people where I was working were furnishing it when parties and stuff. Where I had my first blackout, I thought. Till I heard a lady talk in Lubbock, and she talked about a 6-second blackout. And it suddenly dawned on me the first time I drank, I had a 6-second blackout. You know what a 6-second blackout looks like? That's you're sitting at the table, and the guys that you were with suddenly disappear, and there's a whole new set of guys. And you don't know when they've changed. That, right? Or you're in a conversation, and all of a sudden the conversation's changed, and you don't know when it changed. What did I miss? That's a 6-second blackout. If I had blackouts, I had pass-outs. You know what? I went to a conference down in, I better watch my time here. I went to a conference in Midland, and I heard Scotty A talk. He talked about vomiting through chain link fence and not getting it on his shoes, and doing some other stuff. And I'm like, maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Maybe I need, I couldn't do that. And that's what my disease says. It says I'm different, right? Until I can hear the similarities. So my story starts. I end up putting whiskey because it was killing me, and I'm like, well, you must be an alcoholic. Got married. I thought that was going to fix me, and turned into I used to call her the wife from hell. Now I just know she was sick, and I pray for her, right? But I ended up with 3 kids from that. One. This is how I got to AA, so I got to tell the story, right? I get divorced, and we got 2 kids. I got custody of 2, and then she found out she lied in the court, and she's pregnant, and she's at Smith Lawn. And so I'll meet a social worker at Smith Lawn up here. And I'm going to do the right thing, right? And what I didn't know is this counselor at Smith Lawn was a social worker in Al-Anon, and she talked to me, and this is in 84. I didn't get sober in 89, so there's a lot of stuff goes on in between that. But she started talking. You can call anytime you want to. Meantime, I get married again, so I'm married, and the wife gets kicked out of the ex-wife gets kicked out of Smith Lawn, and she lived down the street with a baby fixed to be born. So I got a new wife and a baby coming, and I'm sober. Yeah. You know, I don't know about you, but that's why I drank. You know, I was Mr. Hyde, and anyway, that marriage lasted like 7 months. Meantime, the baby comes, and beautiful little baby girl. Anyway, we end up in a custody deal, but I start drinking again. See, what happened is one day I thought, oh, I have one of them baby bulls, and I drank it. I'm okay. Oh, I have more, right? I tend to be a bar drinker, right? I go to the bar. I start hanging. So now I end up with 3 kids, and I'm going to the bar, and I'm trying to find some place to put these kids. You know, and I'll tell you, I love those kids. Don't get me wrong, but I could not love them like they need to be loved because of the disease of alcoholism. So that's my story. Anyway, I got those 3 kids. I've been divorced twice, and I'm drinking, and I'm passing out again. You know, I didn't know you could pass out on beer, but you can. And I'm waking up in streets, strange substances on my body. And, you know, one time a guy kicked me and said, you need to get out of the street, you're going to get run over. And, yeah, get up and go drink some more. But, you know, that's just the deal. And my worst drunk wasn't my last drunk wasn't my worst drunk. But I'm calling this lady up in Lubbock, the social worker, and she said, oh, come up and talk to me. She takes me to the Cap Rock convention. She said, how much you drink? I said, oh, you know, just 2 or 3. I would just go out and have 2 or 3. Never was honest, right? And she takes me to the Cap Rock convention, and there's the gray-haired ladies there. I know now is Evelyn and Pew and all them, and they're up there. And they're having fun at the podium and laughing and joking. And I'm thinking, I don't know what the heck they got to be happy about, right? Well, anyway, so she takes back, and she said, I said, well, you know, that's great and good and stuff, but you know, I don't think I have what they have or need what they got, and but I want to get over this because my life was unmanageable. And she said, well, I suggest you go to Al-Anon, right? Okay. I'm going to tell you, me and my girlfriend were drinking pretty heavy. I thought she was an alcoholic. That's one deal. You know, it couldn't be me, is my girlfriend. Well, I found out she was a heavy drinker because she quit. Didn't need AA, right? Not me. So anyway, I go back and I get into Al-Anon, and Al-Anon's let me talk for a little bit, and then one day they said, Loy, we are tired of your whining, and we want to hear recovery. What's that? And so they explained to me. And one of them said, Loy, you know what I would recommend for you is ever Al-Anon needs to go to some open AA meetings. I'd recommend at least 90 open AA meetings, maybe more for you. You know? And what I didn't know, they had Al-Anon and AA's got their little AA posse. And one of them's husband would catch me, and another one's come out of the room, and he'd shake my hand. BH, now I'm BH's sponsor today. Go figure. He's got 30-something years, but what a blessing for me. And what happened is I'm out there drinking after the Al-Anon meetings and stuff. You got to get some relief somewhere. And BH is over there, and he's sitting at a table at the bar, and he's drinking Coke, and he's dancing and smoking, and he's watching me. I'm like, damn, what, does he follow me? Right? He's following me around. And every time he's shaking my hand. So anyway, I did that whole, it screw up your drinking, going to those meetings. I don't know if you know that. If you go long enough, it screw up your drinking. And so I they said, hey, there's a guy in AA named Mike J. He's got 3 kids. He's a single dad, just like you, and he's trying to stay sober. We think you ought to meet him. So I started going to those open AA meetings, and I'm like, my life's unmanageable, but like, heck, am I powerless? So for the next year, I tried to prove that I was not powerless over alcohol, and I'd go one day. I didn't tell y'all I was getting a dry date, but it's like I tell my girlfriend, yeah, I'll quit drinking today. 2 days later, I'm drinking, right? 3 days later, I'm drinking. A week, I probably would have got, who knows how many Desire chips if I'd have got a Desire chip. But this is going on, and what happened is no matter how much I drank, at this point, I can't shut that thing up here. I can't shut it off, And I'm feeling guilty because I'm taking my kids in all kinds of places and leaving them till all hours of the morning, And my sons, they're old enough now, it's normal. But my daughter's still hanging on to my leg. And she's saying, please, Daddy, don't go. And for a split second, I got a conscience that says, stay. I need to stay. And then that urge kicks in and is like, I got to go. I got to go because I need some relief. The tension in my head's getting too tight. I'm about to explode. And I'm feeling guilty because I can't stay and be a dad like I need to be. I even took them to church, right? You ever do this? This is several years ago. I go to church and I'm going to do the dad thing, and I'm drinking all night Saturday night, and I'm getting them up, and I'm going to church buzzed, and I'm leading singing. Putting them in, and don't get me wrong, we're in a church building, and God needs churches, right? God needs people somewhere spreading his message. But I'm going to church and I'm miserable, and those people are praying for me, and pretty soon they're tired of praying for me, right? And one day I'm up there leading singing, I suddenly smell myself. And I heard in a meeting, I heard later in a meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, you can smell yourself. You can smell the alcohol in yourself. They've been smelling you for 3 days. You might be an alcoholic if you're laying in a bed with towels on one side of it because of the mess you made 6 months ago. Think about that a while, right? You might be an alcoholic if you're sitting in a car listening to Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. By yourself. My favorite song that year, and this is 1989 when I'm trying to sober up and I'm doing this deal, and I'm still going out there and I'm getting those days at a time, and my favorite song is what? I'm No Stranger to the Rain. Right? Love that song. Whiskey River. Right? And Keith died, by the way, April of 1989 from the disease of alcoholism, alcohol poisoning. I'm like, wow. That gets your attention for about 10 seconds, right? Come December, it's I don't know how much time I got here. December, I'm realizing, and I need some help, and Barbara, Al-Anon's husband's Hoss, and I'd worked with Hoss, and Hoss is talking to me, and BH is talking to me, and I get back in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I actually tell somebody a dry date, because I picked December 1st because I can't remember for sure if I drank on November 30th, but I know I didn't drink on December 1st, right? And I get Hoss as a sponsor. And Hoss told me, these things to do. He said, get on your knees in the morning and ask God to keep you sober and thank him at night and put your shoes under the bed. I'm like, Hoss, I don't know if you know this or not, but said, if I pray, God will know where I'm at. Loy, don't worry about it. He's not concerned. He got more problems in the world to worry about you. So he started me doing that. And then he say, Loy, let's take a meeting to the state hospital. Now I'm going to tell you, I drove by the state hospital because I was living north of the state hospital in a little cheap house with 3 kids because it was cheap. I could afford it. And I drive by the state hospital. I'm like, I need to be in there. I need to be in there. If I don't go in there, I'm going to go to that other place after the prison, right? I need to be in there. but by God, I'm not volunteering. They're going to have to come get me. And I drive by there and just, they're looking at you. They're going to come, you know. Let me tell you a little story about that house if I got time. It's getting close to winter time. Just because, let's tell you where alcoholism takes you, I think. Getting close to winter time, and I got those 3 kids, and yes, the house is cheap. I find out why. I'm sitting there watching TV. We had a chair and a TV, and a TV sitting on the floor, and 3 kids are watching TV, and I'm just kind of sitting there in my self-pity, wallowing, and I see 4 shadows. 1, 2, 3. And I look again, and my oldest son, my youngest son, my daughter, and a mouse. Mouse sitting there watching TV with them. Well, this can't be. So I put out mouse traps, and I started seeing more and more. It's starting to get cold, right? And there's rats and stuff. So, man, I even got a BB gun. I'd sit up at night while they're watching TV. I'd shoot. Knock them off, right? See that rat? I don't know if you know, you shoot a rat, he'd jump about 6 foot high in there and scream. But it's getting cold and they're getting so bad I can't keep them out, right? And so I take the last money I got, about $23, and I go buy all the rat poison I can. I put it out and I take the kids somewhere else for that night so that they don't get rat poison. And come back, and sure enough, they're everywhere. They're dead. They're in traps. And I'm thinking, okay, we got this problem, right? And I cleaned all up and put the kids to bed, put my daughter in her bed with her little teddy bear. I get up the next morning, and I get the kids ready for school, and I go in to wake my daughter up, and her teddy bear's had the eyes and the nose chewed off its face by the rats. Right next to her. It could have been her, right? And I'm like, my life's falling apart. And it's affecting these kids. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous that I got here, right? Thank God for those Al-Anons that 12-stepped me, or hurted me, you know, drove me. So anyway, that's just where my disease. See, of myself, I can't make anything. I came here a broken man. I failed in every area. I failed as a father. I failed as an employee. I was unemployable. I called it self-employment. You know? But I'd failed in all those areas. You know, I failed as a father, as a son, as a brother. And Haas started me through this process. And he took me to those meetings at State Hospital. He said, come take a meeting at State Hospital. I said, Haas, if I go to State Hospital, they're going to lock me up. And he said, no, Loy, I'll be with you. It won't happen. So we started taking meetings at State Hospital. Saved my life, right? Saved my life. And one day, you know, they're talking in meeting. I don't know how long I've been going. They're talking about the big book of alcohol. I said, man, maybe I need to get one of those big books. And he said, well, yeah. He said, they're whatever, $4.95, whatever it was back then. And I said, hell, I ain't got that much money. He said, well, you can pay it out. I think I paid him $1.90, right? It took me a couple of meetings, like a week and a half or so. Finally paid him out. He gave me the big book. I immediately got a resentment the next week. He gave a big book away, right? I'm going to tell you, I know now why he did that. He knew I was there, and I was willing, you know, and he gave me the big book, but he made me accountable and responsible for getting it and investing in it. He knew that next guy was not going to be back, and the only chance he might have is if he took a big book with him. Mm-hmm. See, I don't know that, but I got resentment, you know. Anyway, he's sitting in the meeting next to me while I'm vibrating sideways, and I hung at bars. You know, the smoke. I was always sick, sinusitis, bronchitis. My first month, I'm sick. I go to Haas. I said, Haas, you know, isn't there an exception to this alcohol rule? You know, I mean, I'm sick. I'm coughing up nasty stuff, and you know, a little whiskey, honey, and lemon sure would help. No, Loy. And don't take no Benadryl. You got any alcohol in your mouthwash? I said, well, he's a little intense. You know? Mouthwash, who can afford mouthwash? He said, go to the doctor. I went to the doctor. He said, you got sinusitis, bronchitis. Here's a shot, here's a shot, here's a shot. Here's the antibiotic. I got better. Who knew, right? Start working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and going to those meetings and learning how to do these steps in my life. And my life got better. And then I got married to her, the one that I've been fighting with all those years. And we had 2 more kids in Alcoholics Anonymous. And things are good. I couldn't make a living. So one day I went to, my Hoss wasn't there, but Steve, my sponsor now, was there. And I said, had a baby before the marriage. And the baby was 3 pounds, 11 ounces. He ended up in Lubbock at NICU. And there's a nurse there that went to nursing school at 48. And he loved it. And I'm thinking, that's what I want to do. I can do that. So I talked to Steve because my Hoss wasn't there that day. And he said, man, that's a great idea. I checked into it. I had almost all the credits. I could get right in. Boom, boom, boom. It happened. God opened that door. It happened, right? I became a nurse. Now, the other side of that story is we had 1 car. My girlfriend, who I married after that baby, needed a car. I had no car to go to work. Somebody in Alcoholics Anonymous loaned me a bicycle, and I rode a bicycle to nursing school that first year. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? Make a long story short, I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in nursing. I became a nurse. I worked in ERs and ICUs, and I never got to do the job I wanted, which was neonatal. They got to let you in the nursery, but it was a great experience. And I keep going to school, and I became a nurse practitioner. And but in 2000, I'm in nurse practitioner school, and I've been to 1998. I went to Midwinter, and the guy says, "Everybody in here with 10 years, raise your hand." So raise the other hand. He said, "Now grab you." He said, "Fixing to hit the fan." I'm like, really? But it did. And the exact same thing that happened to me, happened to him, happened to me, and started that very next month. But it also started in November of 1998. I coded my own grandmother. And for the next 13 months, I had 16 family members die. 16. I went to 2 funerals one day. And I'm working nights, and I'm doing codes at night. I'm no longer taking care of myself because I think I am responsible. I've lost the fact that God is responsible, right? I lost that. My wife moves out. The kids move out. I'm in a house by myself that I bought for them, working to pay for, with a bunk bed and a phone. And I'm going to tell you what happened at that time is I had a hypnagogic state. People would knock on the door and there'd be nobody there. The phone would ring, nobody'd be there. It's called stress, right? Stress-induced psychosis, whatever you want to call it. And I took care of my one of my sponsors named Butch at this time. I was with another sponsor named Tim. He was sick and he was dying up in ICU at the VA. I took care of him, and what a gift that was, because in his dying, he showed me that you could have peace. And weeks later, my dad found out he had cancer about October, and I'm taking care of him and working nights and not getting no sleep again. And I realized my dad's hanging on for Thanksgiving for the and he's suffering, but he's hanging on. And I tell my mom, I can no longer be selfish in this thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. I need to let Dad go. I tell Mom he's suffering. He's wanting to go. He's waiting on the Thanksgiving. Have Thanksgiving Saturday. Have all the family come in. This is Saturday before Thanksgiving. He came in. He actually got out of bed. Hadn't eaten in a month. And he ate a little bit. And he visited with everybody. Everybody left at 6, and at 7 o'clock he was able to pass. Right? Because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I could give up my selfishness and realize what he needed. But I'm still hurting. I'm still hurting from that whole year where I'm thinking I'm responsible again. And come March, February, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning, I get up and I walk down the railroad tracks. And I'm going to tell you the deal about the railroad tracks is in Gallup, New Mexico, on a monthly basis, there's a drunken Indian run over by railroad trains, right? It is. It happens. I don't know what it is about drunks and trains. They made a song about it, right? Then I walk down the railroad tracks. The train doesn't come. I keep walking. I'm waiting for the train. It doesn't come. Coincidence? I don't know. I walk back, I think about jumping off the overpass in front of a truck, because if I just jump off, I just break my legs. But if a truck hits me too, it'll get it over with. And you're lucky you get knocked in the ditch and lay there for 2 days before somebody sees you, right? And I walked back home and I called my sponsor, Tim, and he says, be over here at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is the bottom in sobriety, right? I'm not thinking about drinking. The drink thought has been removed. But I'm not thinking about living anymore. And he worked with me. Let me tell you a little story about Tim, my sponsor. I was whining in a AA meeting one day. I guess I was whining. And he said, come to my house. I went over to his house and he threw a big book on the bed. He sit down there and open up that big book, start reading something. He's digging in a closet. All of a sudden, you know the shotgun sound? Pump. Get your attention every time they pump that shotgun. I turn around, he's got these wide look in his eyes. He said, now I'm going to tell you something. He said, you can get that big book and you can work that program in every area of your life, or you can get a bottle of whiskey and a 45 and go out in the field and get it over with. And I'm thinking, God, if you'll let me out of here, I'll find another sponsor. God let me out of there, but I didn't get another sponsor. And so at this time, Tim's still my sponsor, but Tim's going through a rough time. Well, sometimes you need 2 sponsors, right? Parkinson's is kicking in, and diabetes is kicking in. But anyway, he's helping me through this. I had 4 years of grieving I had to do, right? And I think I'm over it. I think I'm over it. I'm over the divorce. I'm over all the grieving. And I can go to dance. I love to dance. In fact, you know what? I've been to that midnight rodeo up here. Yeah. I forgot all about that. And I go to the ranch in Midland and I'm going to dance, and I walk in and I'm looking for her and some, who can I dance with? But I've seen people die, so I know what people look like when they're dying and they're dead. And I'm looking and I'm seeing these faces, and I'm seeing there's no life in anybody in that entire building's face when they walk by me. There's no life. Their ears are waxy, their skin's waxy, they're pale. They're walking zombies. About 15 minutes, I got to leave. I am not spiritually fit to be in that place alone, right? This whole thing was a catalyst for my spiritual growth. I didn't know it at the time. That bottom was a catalyst. If I'm willing, and willingness is the key. We talk about that, right? Haas talked about it. What are you willing to do today? Right? You willing to get on your knees and pray? Are you willing to try to stay sober one day at a time? Are you willing to help another human being? Are you willing to get out of yourself? Are you willing to let God change you? See, I think I've got to work this program. I've got to change those character defects. God's got to. I've just got to let him. And he may use some of my character defects to get y'all. I don't know. Make a long story short, I'm going to Tahachi with my sponsor, and they're having a sweat lodge. What a deal, right? And some of the guys in the sweat lodge are praying for relationships. Did a little prayer. It was a couple of years ago, and my sponsor tells me, I'm looking for a relationship. He said, well, find a church lady or an Al-Anon. Yeah. Well, ain't no Al-Anon in Big Spring, but I can't find no church ladies either. And a couple months later, he says, well, I've been praying you get in a relationship. And my current wife, we ran into each other, and she's a beautiful lady, loving soul. And I'd met her in VA working. She's a nurse, and I fell in love with her there, but I never asked her out because you don't mix business, and wanted to. And then she disappeared. I didn't know she had this disease, and she was out there doing her thing. But she came back into my life on St. Patrick's Day one day. I was out on another date, and she came back into my life, and we became friends, and she ended up in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and she's doing it still. She's getting this, right? And so I asked her to start dating me, and we dated, and I want to marry her. I even come up here and talk to Bob and Barbara about marriage. Bob and Barbara, my friends. And I got the ring, and then every time I go to give it to her, I freeze up. The fear of I went and got Jim, did a whole 4th step on it. Went and did a 5th step. And Jim says, boy, you know why you freeze up? Because every other marriage you had blew up. Every other marriage you've ever had is blown up. So what, the fear is still there. That thing hadn't been healed. And pray about it, and then make the decision. So we decided to get married, and we got married January 26th. And this has been an amazing ride. It's been he said relationships are the catalyst for spiritual growth. Right? Man, they are. They are. So I got 2 sponsors, and my sponsee sponsored me this week because 90 days was last Friday, and right now we're separated. And it's been a painful deal. I'll just tell you that. But I have no regret for having opened my heart to her. You know, even though I got crazy for about 4 days and diarrhea and stomach cramps and vomiting and headaches and can't sleep, it's worth it, right? It's worth it. One of the guys at Tahachi named Al, he says, if you don't close your heart, you'll never have to go to the pain of opening it again. And I know exactly what he means right now, right? Because I don't want to close my heart. I don't want to close my heart. Not to her. Whether we get back together or not, I wish her the very best. I love her. You know, no matter, I love y'all. I'm filled with love today. You know, I don't know you. I mean, I know you, but I don't know you. Some of you I know, right? But you're my people. You're my people, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit about a little bit of religious thing, because I think the big book talks about this. We should be quick to see where religious people are right. You know, and we should be praying all the time, I think. Every word and every thought should be a prayer. And if you're cursing, that's a prayer too. You're cursing for bad. You're praying for bad. And if you're praying for good or blessing, you're doing that. I'm convinced that God is in all of us and through all of us. And He's love. He's love, right? And if I'm with Him, I'm in my right mind. If I'm separating myself from Him, I am no longer in my right mind. If I'm doing the loving thing, if I'm caring for others and I'm spending my time for other people, helping other people get sober, helping strengthen the weak, as the other big book says, strengthen the weak and poor, then I'm co-creating with my Creator. I'm in His will. That's His will for me today, to think of others. But if I'm out of that, in self-pity, in worry, in fear, then I'm no longer with Him, and I'm no longer in my right mind. And for me, that is the definition of sanity, being in my right mind today. And I'm reasonably comfortable with my unsolved problems, to quote Mike J. Right? Because I know that if I just keep walking, trust God, one day at a time, He's going to get me through this, and it's going to be stronger on the other side. Thank you for my sobriety.